see what we've got. Explain why a business might choose to not outsource. So you had roughly about 7 minutes, because I have to run and get that. Who finished their answer? One? Just one? Ritu like nervously raising her hand there because she realised she was by herself. Okay, come on. Next time, darlings, and sorry I'm out of breath because, well, don't run very much in COVID anymore, do we? Okay? You have to work on the speed of your answers. Okay? Now you had the dot points ahead of you already, so you shouldn't be taking that long. Keep in mind, this would probably be something like a 5-mark answer. So you're getting about roughly a minute, tiny bit maybe more, for each mark. So you need to get there a bit quicker. Okay? Put your hand up if you're nearly finished. Okay, vast majority of you. Okay? You reckon you could have finished if you had 1 more minute? Okay. So we're getting there, we just need to get there just a bit more. Okay? Alright. Give me what your answer was. I know you didn't finish it, but give me what answer you had. Yeah.
A business might choose to not outsource due to its corporate social responsibility. CSR relates to the business's goals regarding equity and justice. This means that a business might not outsource to avoid workers working in sweatshops or using child labour. This might impact stakeholders, as some stakeholders will focus on business's CSR values while others might focus on a profit. This can result in conflicts regarding whether to outsource or not. Another reason why a business might choose to not outsource is quality control.
Yep, great. Okay. So I think if you actually shortened that CSR bit, I reckon you could have gotten to the quality control part and still gotten 5 marks for that. Okay, so I think for you, you just went a bit overboard on the CSR, but it was good. Now, what did she do right? Oh, come on, she definitely did things right. Unless you're all like way harsh judges. Alright, listen. Did she answer the question explicitly? Yes. Did she do it at the very start? Yes. Okay. It was explicit and it was done at the start. I was left in no ambiguous nature about what her answer was. Okay. Then she very accurately went through CSR and she started talking about how it has a role in sort of promoting the fight against injustices and how stakeholders in the public are going to be interested about that. Okay? Now, one of the things that I would really start to bang on about with outsourcing is when we're talking about stakeholders that are going to be the most impacted by outsourcing, who are we talking about? Who are the stakeholders that are going to be hurt the most when outsourcing happens? Exactly right, the employees of the current administration. Okay, so one of the big things that we talk about with stakeholders is employees that will be made. What would these employees be made if the outsourcing goes through? Yeah, redundant, exactly right. So these stakeholders do matter a massive amount, okay? Because these are the stakeholders that have an interest in your business succeeding or not succeeding, okay? They will be deeply upset if they are left to be made redundant. Now, we talked a bit about this last prelim. If employees are made to feel worthless, or they're basically just shoved to the side, what does your business run a risk of? Starts with an S. When somebody else is doing something they shouldn't be to sort of actually kill the business or make sure it doesn't run. Bingo was his name. Okay? So if your stakeholders are not happy, okay, you do run the risk of possible sabotage. Okay? Remember when we were looking at that guy last term? The one, I think he was made redundant, so what did he do? He put a virus into the actual business and cost him a couple of $1 million. Okay? That's an excellent example of employee sabotage of businesses. Okay? So, really focus in on the stakeholders of that one. Okay? In particular, the employees that are going to lose their job if outsourcing happens. Because if they lose their job, they're going to be made redundant and everything like that. They're going to be annoyed, but it's also going to be possible sabotage and worsening of business reputation. Because I know the same thing happened with a couple of car companies in this country where Holden mentioned that it might be going overseas. And in the moment Holden mentioned that it was going overseas, a whole bunch of people went, no, I'm not buying Holden anymore, not if it's some sort of Malaysian or Chinese made stuff. Okay, because they want to buy stuff from their own country. Okay, so it can be a massive impact outsourcing and not always for the beneficial. Okay, when we're looking at quality control, what are we talking about in terms of outsourcing?
The business loses control of quality.
Exactly right. Okay, the business will lose control over quality. Because the products are no longer being made underneath their own establishment and umbrella, then that business will no longer have direct quality control over the product. Means so much more things can go wrong in production as the person they have outsourced to will be cutting as many corners as they can. Okay? When we're talking about the 4 V's, what might we be talking about? Keeping in mind, which V did I say to focus on? Variability. Okay, when we're talking about variability, what are we actually talking about?
The variation in demand.
Variation in demand. Okay, so some seasons might have really high demand for a product, other seasons might not. Okay, we talked about variability when we were looking at it in our case study. How basically they released 3 new iPhones in 1 year. One of those iPhones had a really big demand, but the other 2 performed really poorly. Okay? Now, if you don't have variability correct, and you cannot predict how much you're going to sell or how much you need to make, what's the dangers of that? I feel like I need to start, doing CPR. We're all a bit dead at the moment. Are we okay? Did something terrible happen? Did you see something bad? Did you? Did you? What did you see? Is someone silencing you? Okay. Think about it this way. If someone said, oh yes, this iPhone is going to be amazing, everyone's going to buy it, and then they only get 50% of the sales they actually expected, what do you think is going to go wrong in the operations process? Particularly manufacturing.
They produce way too much.
Yes! Okay, they've produced way too much than what they should have. Okay? So if they thought this iPhone was going to sell tremendously, but then it performs really poorly, then they've got millions of these iPhones sitting in stock that they just can't sell. And as we were looking at the last lesson, when you have things sitting in stock, it costs a lot of money. Okay, because you have to pay for the place to store it there, to pay for all the logistics following it around and everything like that. Okay? Now, when you are outsourced, do you think you have greater or less control over the variability of how much you produce, how little, and things like that? Less, exactly right. So you have less control over production of goods. Okay, and I'm realising that I think I've got one of the V's wrong. Is that what I'm hearing in the background? I thought I said variation instead of variability. Okay, so you have less control over the production of the good, okay, which means you run a much greater risk if you're outsourcing of producing too much or too little. You simply don't have the flexibility to make those key changes when you want to if you owned your own systems of production. Okay? Finally, economies of scale. You know what? I'm not even sure why I put that one up there. Doesn't work. Yeah, it would be the opposite. Sorry, girls. That was me being silly. But at least we all know what economies of scale mean. Okay? I'm counting it as a win. Okay? Samar's like, oh my God, another mistake. Come on, sir. All right. So, darlings, here's what we're going to be doing. Okay? Worked over your workbook sections over the weekend. Okay? Those of you that gave it back to me, they're all marked. The only one that hasn't been marked is that long question at the end. I simply ran out of time. Okay? So if you want me to do the long question at the end, I will take it back from you and I will re-go over it this week. Okay? I just didn't have enough time to get there. Now what we're going to be doing today is going over those answers, keeping in mind that a lot of these are, of course, HSC questions. All right, Chen, Rabia, Shyla.
Oh my God, sir.
What is that? What? I'm so sorry. Rabia. Shyla, where are you? Thank you. Ayushi. Yes. As long as I don't do it next year, we're fine, yeah? Helly. Takshi. He. Ritu. Shyla. Keep in mind we're handing out 2 sections again, so of course your name comes out twice. Girls, there were a number of them that didn't have names. No names, I can't mark. Okay, so if you gave them to me, I'm going to put the unnamed ones here. Takshi. Malamet. Same one. Hold on a second, just going to separate. There we go. Kelly. Unnamed. Husna. Here. Ritu. You and Ayushi. All right. So, girls, I'll give you just 2 minutes to go over what you have done. Okay, go over what I've written on it, and I'll just start up the projector and we'll start going over it together. Now, girls, keep in mind, there are 3 unclaimed words. Hey, you come over here. Oh, wait, I'll only do it because the camera's on. Because I don't want to edit you out. Are there any others unclaimed? Anyone wondering why I handed something in but didn't get it back? Not sure? Might be other days. Does anyone want that still? No? Golden? Someone said like, no? I'm just hearing things. That's cool. It's just a growing sign of losing it. Alrighty. Right. So, possums. Is there anyone that cannot see that board? Anyone that writing is just too small? Speak now for make it bigger.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I like how like 3 people go,
Right,
yeah,
four,
after
yeah.
one person says it. You go, speak up, guys. Better, Melanet?
Yes. You have to ask the other people.
Can we all see it perfectly now? Or do you want that final light off as well?
No.
No? Okay. Fabulous. Okay. So, now, all of the multiple choice, as I was saying before, has come from HSC question. Every single one. Okay? So let's go over these.
Oh wait, so do you have yesterday's paper?
Yesterday's paper, I do believe I actually, no, I didn't put it online. Can you come see me at lunch? I'll print it out
I
for
don't
you.
mind, like, can you put it online? I just want to see it.
Tomato.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's have a look. Number 1, a business in crisis needs to make immediate and timely decisions in order to survive. Which leadership style does the manager of this business need to adopt? So you have the option between autocratic, bureaucratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. Okay? Now this one simply goes back to the management approaches of prelim. Okay? And we really hammered these management approaches. Okay? So let's very quickly just go through each one. Autocratic, what are we talking about? Girls, when we see cratic, what does it mean? Oh, this is worrying. This would explain where a couple of answers came from. Okay? Cratic or cracy means rule of. Auto, what does it mean? One. Okay? So if we see autocratic, it means that you are adopting a business style where basically the manager has all the say. Okay? When we have a bureaucratic system, what are we actually looking at? Rule of when you have a bureaucratic system, it is the rule of bureaucracy / admin. Okay? It is a very time-consuming process, a bureaucratic control method. Okay? And it basically means to do anything, you have to fill out this form, then fill out this form, and make sure the 3rd form and 5th form are both signed in the exact same way, blah, blah, blah. If you've ever been to Centrelink before, you will have known some form of bureaucracy, okay? Due to the vast amount of forms that you have to fill, okay? Democratic. What does it mean? Yeah, rule of everyone, a rule of many, okay? So if it is democratic, it is rule of many, the exact opposite to autocratic, okay? The last one is obviously not acratic, okay? But it is something that we have done before. What does laissez-faire mean? I'll tell you what, you don't have to tell me exactly what it means, but who thinks they know what the general intention of it is? Not so much contingency. I can see how you got there though. Basically, when we're talking about laissez-faire, you're basically adopting a hands-off approach. You're letting it be. What will be, will be. Okay? You're basically saying it will sort itself out. Okay? Now, keeping in mind our question, A business in crisis needs to make immediate and timely decisions in order to survive. Which leadership style does a manager of this business need to adopt? Well, obviously, if it needs to make immediate and timely decisions, we knock out bureaucratic automatically. It's going to take too long. Okay? Immediate and timely decisions, well, we both know that democracy might be something that's very good overall, but it doesn't work quickly, does it? Okay? If you've ever worked in a group project, you know that there's almost always 1 to 2 members of the group that you want to kill because they can't decide anything. Okay? Laissez-faire, it doesn't really have to do anything with timely, but it has to do with making decisions. If you're just letting things go, it doesn't make sense. You're not making decisions. Okay? So of course it bumps back to autocratic. You need that autocratic method to basically seize control of the situation. Okay? Now, when is something, or what sort of scenario do we get to when we go, we don't want an autocratic method? When the business is actually doing well. Okay? When the business is doing really bad and you need to make those quick-paced decisions, you go to autocratic. You need someone to take control. If the business is doing relatively well, you switch back to democratic, because basically you're saying, right, we're doing well, everyone has an input now, who's got the best ideas for keeping this company continuing on going up? You want as much innovation as possible. Okay? Keeping in mind that all of these go back to our management approaches of classical, behavioural, and contingency. I think it's that one. If I wanted to constantly swap between autocratic and democratic, what management approach would I pick on the right? Contingency. Okay? Because behavioural is naturally democratic. You've got a lot of people involved in every procedure. Classical is really autocratic. And if I want to swap between them, I'm going contingency. Okay? Alright. Now, number 2. A business reduces product defects by using inspections in a production process. This is an example of quality what? Okay? So your options are control, improvement, innovation, and production. Okay? Now, keeping in mind, this really has to do with the verb in question. It's a semantics question. Has to do with just the actual meaning of the word that follows it. Okay? Now, control is basically you have control over the production process. Okay? You are ensuring nothing bad comes out. Sorry, that is actually quality assurance, not quality control. Give me a second. Where's my thing? You are ensuring nothing bad gets out. Now, I know that seems like a really small change that I just made, but it is an important one. Because when we're looking at quality control, you're basically acknowledging that there are faults in the production process, but after the product is produced, you're basically just going to take them out so they never reach the customer. Quality assurance is when you assure the customer that nothing bad's ever going to be produced, basically. Okay? Quality improvement, well, it just doesn't make sense. We've not really run into that word, and it's not like you're trying to improve anything. You're just simply trying to get the bad stuff out of there. So it doesn't make sense. Okay, thank you, darling. Shirin, is that your worksheet there on the front, next to Lavinia? Yep, just take it back, darling. Okay? Now, innovation would presume that we are making something new. but we're not. Okay, we are not making something new, we're simply looking for defects. Quality production is the only one that sort of makes sense in this scenario, but once again, it's simply just not the right word that we're looking for. Okay, we haven't really run across this terminology of quality production. So of course, it's quality control. Okay? Does that make sense? Fabulous. Okay? Now girls, please make sure that you really get those words of practice and proceed, because I don't like explaining them to Year 12 modern history students at the end of their HSE, and I don't particularly like explaining it again and again to business studies either. Okay? Proceed always means rule of. Relate it to credit. Alright. Number 3. A sole trader cleaning business purchases generic product to lower costs and be price competitive. This is an example of which strategy? Now, we've done this one a lot lately. Okay? So, cost leadership is basically producing for a lower price and passing on to consumer. Because basically that cleaner is producing the cheapest, nastiest cleaning products available, but his cleaning service is going to be a lot cheaper than everybody else's. Okay? That's just how it works. Economies of scale, well, it never said anything about the cleaner purchasing massive amounts of the goods to lower the cost. It just said he was purchasing lower quality stuff. Inventory management has nothing to do with that. He's not managing his inventory. Goods and service differentiation. Once again, question said nothing about differentiation of goods and services. If it was differentiation, it would be the cleaner purchasing both high quality end goods and low quality end goods, and basically saying to their customers, hey, you have an option. If you pay a bit more, you get that really high quality clean. If you choose to go for the flat rate, we'll just give you what we normally have. Okay? So of course, that must be cost leadership. Okay? Now, the first 3 we did relatively good on. The 4 and 5 was the ones that we struggled on. Okay? Which I thought we might have as well. Okay? So looking at this critical path analysis, okay, I think this is just a general misunderstanding. It is a somewhat weird thing to get your head around, so let's go through it, okay? Which tasks need to be completed prior to completing task D? Okay? Seeing as task D is here, you cannot just move on a straight line from A, B to D. You can see from the dots connecting up that the processes of F and C still need to be completed before you can get to D. Okay, you can't just go straight from there because you can see the lines all connect up. So really for question 4, the only thing that you wouldn't be doing is task G, because that's coming after it, isn't it? You're not going to be doing that. You're trying to figure out how do you get to everything completing task D. So you have to do A, B, C, E, F, and then finally reach to D. So the answer to that one is of course D. You need to do A, B, C, E, F only. Okay? Is anyone confused about that one?
So what's the critical path analysis? Isn't it like it tells you if there's a longer way and the shorter way?
Yeah, so critical path analysis, okay, in particular this one on question 5, is the shortest way of doing something. Okay? Now, I had to actually go and ask for this one as well, just to double make sure that I was doing it correctly. But when we're looking for the critical path, one of the simplest ways that we thought about it was this. Do we all know where the Hizzy staff room is? Okay? Now, let's imagine we're walking outside of the Hizzy staff room and I want to get to the library. What is the quickest path to get to the library?
Down the stairs.
Straight down those D block stairs as soon as I get out of D block. Out of the Hizzy staff room. I turn right, go down those stairs, straight across. Let's assume that that construction site isn't there. I'm going out the left-hand side, exiting D block. Okay, that is the critical path towards getting to the library. However, there are other paths. I can choose to walk straight from Hizzy, go down past the science staff room, walk down those stairs, take the right-hand side exit of D block, walk around the quad, and then get to the library. That is not the critical path. That is not the quickest path. Okay? Now, for number 5, an improvement in technology reduces the time between tasks C and D to 1 day. What is the new length of the critical path? So for number 5, you have to keep in mind where you're actually going from, which is C and D. Okay? Now, I can understand where a lot of us went wrong in this one, because I did the exact same thing the first time I was doing it. And a lot of you said 10 days. Okay? Because what you've done is you've gone, okay, it's not 2 days anymore, it's 1 day, because they said they reduced it. So I'm going 1, 4, 6, boom, 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 added them all up, turned into 10. Naturally not counting from D to G. I can see where you all did that one. Like I said, I did it the first time as well. Okay? But because you're looking at the critical path, what you are actually doing is you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that's now 1, 6. Because you're looking at that path from C to D. You're not looking at that path from E, F, and D. Okay, so it was one of those things that was just hidden away in the actual question. Okay? Does that make sense? Because I'll be honest, I had to think about that one for a while myself. I thought they might have actually written the answer down wrong. Okay. Now, number 6. A juice bar is operating in a shopping centre. The juice is served to customers in plastic cups with plastic straws. The high sales volume and quick turnover demand efficient operations processes. Now, the first question was super duper easy if you went through the reading. Okay? Because it was basically a big old table telling you the answer to this one. Okay? Can someone who got 2 out of 2 for that question give me their answer? I know that was a good number if you got 2 out of 2, so come on. And not just Ritu because she raised her hand the last 3 times. Alright, what did you got? Did you get 2 out of 2?
No, I was away when you gave this
Well, my apologies. Rabia?
I wrote human resources and facilities.
Yeah, okay. That one was a pretty simple answer. All you basically had to do was identify, keeping in mind that verb, human resources and facilities. Because those are the 2 transforming resources that are going to be used. Okay? Now, from human resources and facilities, you could go into more specific depth. For example, when talking about human resources, you could go into the depth and say, this is the staff that have to use it, and then also be trained in it. Training was an important one for that one. For facilities, you could list out certain machines and also the venue of the place. Okay? So if you look at the actual HSC marking for that one, all it says is identifies 2 transforming resources or identifies 1 transforming. Identify is a beautiful question because it's very simple to answer. Okay? You can get full marks with identify just with some very, very basic dot points. I don't recommend it, but you certainly can. Write it out in full sentences, try to put a bit of detail when you can. Okay? Alright. B. How does variety impact the transformation process of this business? Who got 4 for that one? Put your hands up if you got 4. I know there was at least a couple if you got 4.
Very shy.
Oh, very shy.
It's early Tuesday morning.
Am I scary today or something?
Almost midway
Have I
through.
got my scary face on? Or are you guys just like dead from a subject previous or something?
So we'll get to the bottom.
It's because I wasn't here all lesson, that's why they're all dead.
Obviously, that's where we went wrong. Shirin was not here at the start to boost all of our energy levels. Okay?
Make sure you hear at the start. That's the picture.
Alright, so let's put the fans on so we're not all dying. How does variety impact the transformation process of this business? First of all, what's variety?
More than one.
Yeah, exactly right, Shirin. More than one. Okay? So variety for this operation would refer to the choices that are available at the juice bar. Okay? Now, I personally really didn't like this question from the HSC because it actually requires you to have a rudimentary knowledge of what the hell juiced is. Okay? It's a particularly bad question I found, but we both know that it hasn't stopped them from asking it before. Okay? So if you don't know anything about juice, it's basically just a fruit juice bar where you can get all different flavours. Now those flavours are the variety. Okay? So you need to talk about in your answer, how is offering all those different flavours and all those different varieties, sizes and things like that going to impact or have an effect on that process, on the transformation process? Okay? So for example, let's move that one just a bit up. Let's have a look at their sample answer. Variety refers to the range of the products made by the business. Straight up, you can see that they've given a definition to variety because it forms the scope of their answer. Okay? With a wide variety of juice being served in the business is able to offer greater choice to customers. Second thing they do, yes, they are offering variety. One of the good things is they can get more customers with it. The variation in the transformation process may include new juice machinery, systems and procedures. Right, so we know that there is variety in it. Let's talk about how it's actually going to hit the transformation process. Mainly because we have to get all these new machines, systems and procedures. This will cost the business money in terms of training and resources, therefore impacting profitability. Okay, so here's all the ways that it's going to change. Here's how what's going to change is going to impact it. However, this will enable the business to have a wider target market, leading to more customers, greater sales, and improved profitability. Very nice summarising argument just at the end. Okay, keeping in mind, it was a 4-mark question. They've got roughly about 5 to 6 sentences. Okay, but also keep in mind the sentences are not particularly that long. Okay, and they're all straight to the point.
There's 5 sentences.
Thank you very much, Shirin. Okay, so to get the top marks for that question, you had to show in detail how variety impacts the transformation process for this business. So you couldn't have just said, okay, they've got different flavours and different machines. That's sketches in general terms. You might have gotten a 3 if you were very lucky with a generous marker. Okay? Quite simply, you needed to talk about how is all that variety going to hit their bottom line? And what do they have to now buy and train because they have that variety? Okay? Question C. Why might this business be reluctant to become more socially responsible? Now, this one was something that a lot of you stumbled on. Okay? So you're basically being asked here, okay, you've got the scenario. From what very little you know about the scenario, you have to decipher why might they be really reluctant to go CSR. Okay? What do you think the obvious striking thing is that's going to be forcing them to not go CSR? What do they want to keep? Plastic straws. Okay? Plastic cups. What do we know about plastic straws and plastic cups?
They're wonderful.
Touchy?
They're cheap.
They're cheap, yes?
That's why I like those businesses collect them. But at the same time, a lot of businesses are trying to get rid of them because
They're not good for the environment.
Pack up time already, you might mix things up.
It's
Yeah.
10:30, 10:29.
hey sir,
Yes.
are you collecting these?
Are those the ones that you've just done? Yeah, I'll
I didn't
collect
wanna do
them.
that.
Just put them at the front.
Why did you do that?
Yes, I'll send it to you. Okay? I'll put it on your password.
Last
Alright, so darlings,
Friday?
just before you go, okay?
I wasn't here Friday.
Think about the environmental damage that might occur from plastic straws and cups. Because that is a big part of what CSR is now, protecting the environment. Girls, you'll have a lovely day. I hope that was somewhat useful to you. I will put up this on Google Classroom, which also has the answers to all the multiple choices on it.